Paradise loading. I don't know why that took me a second to like be able to read. I'm primarily in a excuse me, let me get a drink. Jeez. Better. Oh, and as soon as I said better, I like breathed in some of my drink. All right. Focus. Maybe it'll focus in a second. Okay. Until then, you get a blurry me talking. I'm primarily of African and Asian descent, but my haplogroup is U5a1, which is European, I believe. For the life of me, I can't figure out haplogroups. Well, with haplogroups, the thing to remember is that they're going to be so far back where the connection is. So all you know for sure is that if you trace up that lineage, so I'm assuming this is a mitochondrial haplogroup. It's really bothering me. It's not coming into focus at all. Let's see if I do this. Does that help at all? Focus. There we go. Okay. Hello, everybody. I'm back. All right. So with mitochondrial, we know it's going to be up that maternal line. So you look up your mother's line, you know, you're going to get that. Or you know, that's where you're going to find that connection. So if U5a1 is European, which I don't know if it is, let's see. U5a1 haplogroup. Because one thing is that there's a lot of haplogroups that cover a large area. So we've got U5a1. So look here, 8700 BC. Oh, wait. I guess I should probably share my screen if you're going to look at it, right? Share screen. Share. There we go. Whoops. Okay, so U5a1, and you can see 8700 BCE. So that means that that's going to be your closest ancestor. So if you look, U5a1, you've got thousands of years. Now it says, let's see. So these are the countries that people with U5a1 largely come from. And so you can see 3% of participants with self-reported direct maternal ancestry from this country belong to U5a1. So Canada, United States, but more importantly, you have African and Asian results. So we see South Africa, that's probably going to be the European component of South Africa. North Africa, kind of same thing. But then with the Asian results, well, not a lot. You know, these are not necessarily areas where you get a ton of European ancestry. I mean, you certainly do, especially, with, considering the British colonial or the British colonies in Asia and the other colonies in Asia of European countries. Although granted, some of them, I mean, look, you get some of them like the Philippines and Indonesian stuff that have none of it. But, with Russia, 4%. And then it's definitely, it's like all over the place. But definitely largely European, but kind of getting into Asian. So depending on what your Asian ancestry may be, that could be, especially as your Asian ancestry on your maternal side. But at the very least, as you do your family ancestry and you build your family tree, going up the paper trail, just doing your mother's mother and her mother and her mother and so on, you always know that at some point up that line, you're going to find some sort of possible connection. Now, that's where the other difficulty comes in, is that with such a distant haplogroup that you have defined of U5a1, there's a lot that's going on. And if you do a more advanced mitochondrial DNA test, which I'm guessing based on U5a1, you're probably getting your haplogroup from like 23andMe or something, maybe Family Tree DNA or whatever. But it's Family Tree DNA is Family Finder, that is. But my guess is you haven't done the Family Tree DNA mitochondrial DNA test, and I would suggest doing that because that's going to give you the most specific haplogroup. And then that haplogroup at the best, or at the very least, should hopefully bring it a lot closer in time from, 8,700 years to even within 2000 BCE or 1000 BC. I mean, you're talking about 7,500 more, years closer in time. And so you might find that you do that, and all of a sudden, oh, you're coming from a subclade that has a large amount of ties to Asian countries that you're from. So, especially, do you come from any of these countries? And then, yeah, I wonder. Let's see. Actually, I got an idea. I'll do it over here. U5a1, Y4. Let's look at the phylogenetic tree on Y4. I'm going to let it load. All right, so here we have U5a1, and we can see that it's far, far back. But then as we go through, we can see the various subclades. And usually what you'll find with a lot of subclades, not always, is that you'll find a lot of commonality. Because basically what happened is some woman in that line went to some area, and then a large amount of her descendants are then from those areas. So like this, U5a1a1, well, we notice Netherlands, Denmark, Russia, Netherlands, Russia. So while not a very super specific area, it's kind of, let's see, what is that? Krasnodarsky? I don't know where that is. Where's Bashkorts? I'd have to look and see, but I'm guessing that these are probably more on the western side of Russia, closer to Europe. So kind of within a general range. But then we notice here, U5a1-A, well, we have Croatia, Egypt, Hungary, Russia, Iraq, Denmark. So this seemed to get much more out into the Levant, into the Middle East, into the Caucasus Mountains. I guess maybe not as much the Caucasus Mountains, but like down into the Balkans, obviously, with that Hungarian, and then, with Egypt, so kind of around the Mediterranean areas. So you can kind of see that it gets into specific spots. And then look here, like we have here, in this subclade, there's a lot of people, but we do have this big, these are ancient, but ancient in China. So if it's ancient in China, let's see, these are remains from 3,000, 4,000 years ago. So if you have Chinese ancestry, then maybe there's this connection to whatever this ancient DNA is, because obviously this mitochondrial haplogroup was in China for 3 to 4,000 years ago. So you can kind of get an idea just by going through these things, and we can see more. That's interesting. We got Bulgaria and China, but you kind of can get an idea of things. Look, we've got a Kenyan. Interesting. But the interesting thing about haplogroups, and especially Y-DNA testing and mitochondrial DNA testing, is because we're talking about one specific line, it takes one ancestor to completely go in a different direction than everybody else. And then all of a sudden you come from a super unique ancestry. As someone like me, if I went to some let's say I'm trying to think of how to put this, some grandiose story, but let's say like I was on a boat, and all of a sudden it capsized, and I was washed ashore and found by some long lost tribe that's had no contact with anybody. And then all of a sudden they bring me into their tribe, and I marry and have children with people in that tribe. And then those children go on and have children, blah, blah, blah. Well, all of a sudden my DNA is a part of that tribe. And so even though I am the only one that's come and done that, well, then all of a sudden you go and test it. It's like, oh my gosh, what's going on here? And so it's just, it takes one person. And if you think about this for thousands of years, think about all of the possibilities of, just one person from Europe who went on a trip on the Silk Road and ended up, having children with someone in a remote area of present day China. Now all of a sudden there's thousands of people who have this ancestry, these haplogroups, because of that one person. So yeah, very, very, very interesting.